Hey peeps from Lewis Land, it's Mrs. Lewis. I just want to go over some figurative language with you and then give you a little project to work on this afternoon in Google Slides. So you've done a lot with figurative language in third and fourth grade. So this is really a review. When we talk about figurative language, it's things that writers or authors will do, or even people will say, that make our language much more exciting and expressive. So we'll go through a few examples and hopefully these will make sense to you. So the first one is personification. This is a type of figurative language. It means you take something that's inhuman and you give it personal characteristics. For instance, Mrs. Lewis heard the brownie calling her name. That means that I'm like so hungry I can hear that brownie just telling me to go and eat it. Brownies don't call out, they're not human. So by making that brownie human, you kind of get an idea of this brownie, and you get the idea that Mrs. Lewis is starving, and that personifies the brownie. The trees whispered to the wind and danced in the breeze. This is another example. Trees cannot whisper, they don't have mouths. They cannot dance, they don't have feet. So when we use that personification in our writing, it helps you visualize what that tree looks like and what it's doing. And it just gives it just makes it more exciting and more interesting to read. Obviously, if the wind is blowing, it's like the tree is dancing in the wind. So those are both examples of personification. Excuse me. Another example is onomatopoeia, which is a really fun word to say, onomatopoeia. And it's basically when an author uses words to describe a sound. So drip, drip, drip might be one. The sound of an owl, hoot, hoot. It really goes hoo, hoo, but we write it Hoot, and we've been doing it that way for years. Other sounds like pow, boom, splat, snap, crackle, pop, from Rice Krispies. Those are all examples of onomatopoeia. It makes you kind of hear things differently when you're reading out loud or reading in general, and it makes the book much more exciting. So we have personification, onomatopoeia. The third one that you probably use a lot yourself is an idiom. It's using words to have a figurative meaning other than the literal meaning. So if I said, hey, my brother is cool as a cucumber, it means he's very calm and relaxed. But it's more fun to say cool as a cucumber, right? I mean, it's just kind of cute. And if you were learning how to speak this language, let's say you're from Japan and you've never spoken English before, if I said to you, hey, my brother's cool as a cucumber, it'd be very hard to understand what you're talking about. Wait, let me look in my English-Japanese dictionary. Cucumber means vegetable. So how can her brother be like a vegetable? I don't get it. So idioms can be very confusing, especially if somebody doesn't understand it. And every once in a while, I'll use one in class and somebody will say, well, what do you mean by that? So some of them are old-fashioned and, they may not be top on your list of things that you know. Okay, the next one. Oh, here's just a few more idioms. I'm sorry. Time flies. I mean, time doesn't literally fly, right? That's almost personification. Hey, don't let the cat out of the bag. It means don't tell a secret. Everything I did in math was a piece of cake. It means it was really easy. So you're not really getting dessert for that. And he's sitting on top of the world. That's an old-fashioned one, meaning that he's in really good spirits. He's in good cheer. These are some other ones that you may or may not have heard of. Hey, he just said it out of the blue, without any warning. Don't go adding fuel to the fire, meaning making a problem worse. And then some idioms that have to do with animals you may be familiar with, like hold your horses, or busy as a bee. What else? Might have heard bull in a china shop means you're really clumsy. And it just all comes from maybe years ago when they said these things. They got started somewhere. It's kind of fun if you Google these. It'll tell you how it originally came about, which they are interesting. Hyperbole it's not pronounced hyperbole, it's hyperbole. That's when we use these a lot. When you have an exaggeration that's so dramatic, we know it's not true. So sometimes you say, my backpack weighs a ton when we're going down to bus dismissal. It doesn't weigh a ton because a ton is 2,000 pounds, but I know it's very, very packed full and very, very heavy. Oh, this is the worst day of my life. Probably not the worst day, but in that particular moment, it might feel that way. And you want to communicate to someone how bad something really is, so you exaggerate, right? Um, so those are all examples of exaggeration. You might have said, I told you like 100 times, stop doing that. It might not have been 100 times, you're just using that as a hyperbole. And these are some examples. My feet are killing me, right? They're not killing you, they're just very sore. And I'm so hungry I could eat a horse. Those are just a couple examples. Alliteration, used a lot in poetry. Basically, it just is when you take consonants or sounds at the beginning of more than a few words in a sentence. Um, she sells seashells by the seashore, which is a tongue twister. So you see it a lot in poetry and in tongue twisters. Similes and metaphors go together because they're basically the same thing, except simile uses the word like or as, and metaphor does not. And you're comparing two things. So we had a woman on my hockey team that caught up to me one time at the goal, and she said, oh, I was in stealth mode, like a cheetah. So this one here, Kelly is a cheetah when she skates in stealth mode, does not use the words like or as. It's just saying it. So that's a metaphor. If I said Kelly is like a cheetah when she skates in stealth mode, then it would be a simile. So it's comparing two things. My brother is a bear in the morning compares my brother and the bear, meaning that he's basically crabby. So here's a couple more similes. As playful as a kitten, that's a simile because it's using the word as. We are like two peas in a pod because it uses the word like. These are metaphors. They do not use the words like or as. They just state it straight out. His heart is a rock. She is the apple of my eye. No like or as. You are my sunshine. Comparing you and sunshine. Okay, so your project is going to be a start a Google slide presentation. Pick 4 out of the 7 that I just went over with you, and I want you to do a slide for each one. So include the definition on the slide and 3 or 4 examples. You can type the examples in a text box. You can include a picture of one, if like I did, if that helps. And then when you're done, make sure you share your presentation with Mrs. Lewis. I will be online this afternoon during ELA time in case you have questions or you need some assistance. I think you'll have fun with it. Okay. Hasta la vista.